Do you know that majority of the sicknesses and diseases like cardiac disorders, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, to mention a few, have been found to have a link with the food seasonings we add to our meals to make them tasty? Research shows that these food seasonings contain series of ingredients, some of which are very harmful to the body. Each cube of food seasoning contains ingredients like salt, monosodium glutamate, and even hydrogenated oil, of which the salt content is always very high. And this is why patients suffering from high blood pressure are always being warned to refrain from the excessive consumption of salt. Welcome back to my channel. It's still Ginseng Matters with Roy. If it's your first time on this channel, I welcome you to this channel. It's your go-to channel for insightful, inspiring, and interesting videos, not limited to healthy relationships, lifestyles, music, and great content you can think of. In coming videos, I will be giving out interesting contents on healthy eating lifestyles, and I'm sure you don't want to miss any of them. Why not just use this opportunity to click on that red button to subscribe and also turn on notifications so you will be informed whenever I upload any new video. So for you to have clicked on this video, it shows that you really value your health and others around you. Kindly sit back while I share with you reasons why you have to consider the use of healthy food seasonings, alternatives, and still have your desired tasty meals. Alright, seasoning cube is a form of broth which is a mixture of dehydrated ingredients. In fact, in 2016, according to African News, it was reported that 65 billions of seasoning cubes were sold. I can't imagine. Furthermore, in 2010, a research conducted reveals that about 1.65 billion of deaths from cardiovascular disease were related to the excess consumption of sodium. Hydrogenated oil is also referred to as transfat and another main ingredient in the seasoning cubes. Research shows that it lowers the good cholesterol, LDL, and increases the bad cholesterol, HDL, in the body. This causes coronary heart disorders, which is the hardening, narrowing, and blockage of the arteries that supply blood to the heart. This in turn leads to heart attacks and stroke. Also, monosodium glutamate is the third main ingredient after salt and hydrogenated oil in seasoning cubes, and it is made by fermenting starch and sugar. Although it's a naturally occurring chemical, research shows that it causes tingling and muscle tightness if consumed in excess. You could be saying, well, but I'm not currently experiencing any of these symptoms. Neither am I actively consuming any of these food seasonings. Yes, you could be right. Some people react immediately after consumption, while other people don't. But its effects keep building up until vital organs in the body, like the liver, the kidney, are badly affected. I'm sure you don't want to wait until that time. To mention a few, sexual weakness in men and vaginal bleeding in women are also some of the risks associated to the consumption of chemical seasonings. The World Health Organization has recommended that a maximum daily consumption of sodium that is found in common salt should not exceed 2,300 milligrams per day, which is equivalent to 1 teaspoon of salt and also 5 grams of salt. I'm sure you don't know that 10 grams of these seasoning cubes contains more than 5 grams of salt. Let's dive in to see how much salt we consume averagely per day. I will be using an example of 3 square meals in a day, which is the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I got some recipes from different online sources. So for example, let's take an example of yam and fried egg as breakfast in the morning. I used a recipe from my active kitchen. So let's have an example of 4 servings per day. She said she used 1 teaspoon of salt to boil the yam, half teaspoon of salt for the egg sauce. And you know that 1 teaspoon of salt is 5 grams. So adding 1 and half together, we have 1 and a half, then multiplied by 5 grams, that would give us 7.5 grams. And one seasoning cube has 10 grams. One seasoning cube is 10 grams, and it has about 5 grams of cooking salt in it. This shows like half of the content of the seasoning cube has salt in it. So having 5 grams plus 7.5 grams will give 12.5 grams of salt for that particular breakfast of yam and egg. So if you now divide this 12.5 grams and share it with between 4 people, you have 3.125 grams of salt per person. That's just for breakfast. Okay, now let's look at the lunch from preciouscore.com. She offered egusi soup with eba, and she used 1 seasoning cube which has 5 grams of salt in it, 1 teaspoon of salt for the meat broth, which is 5 grams of salt. So, and she had 6 servings for this particular meal. This particular meal is going out for 6 servings. So if you divide 10 grams of salt by 6 people, share it between 6 people, each person must have consumed 1.6 gram of salt if they eat this particular recipe for their lunch. Now let's move straight to dinner. I got a recipe from Tasty. In fact, lots of people like this. I think it really makes nice dishes. So he prepared a rice and stew for 6 people. In 1 tablespoon of salt, there are 3 teaspoons. That's just a reminder. So he used 1 tablespoon salt plus 1 teaspoon, adding up to 4 teaspoons, which is equivalent to 4 teaspoons. And then if you multiply it by 5 grams of salt, we have 20 grams of salt for that particular for dinner. He also used 2 seasoning cubes. So if we had 2 seasoning cubes plus the salt, the initial salt he used, we have like 20 grams plus 10 grams, making 30 grams of salt. Now sharing these 30 grams of salt between 6 people, because it's for 6 servings, we have each individual we have 5 grams of salt for dinner that day. Now if you had all this together, breakfast, lunch and dinner for that day, then we'll have an average estimate of 9.725 grams of salt, which is more than the minimum specified requirement by World Health Organization and the US Food and Drug Administration, FDA. This shows that if we can eliminate seasoning cubes and substitute with our traditional food flavor enhancers, then the quantity of salt that we would have consumed per day would drastically reduce. So using the example I just cited from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we see that if we remove all the seasoning cubes from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if you remove, then the salt content in the breakfast menu will drop to 1.875 grams, while the lunch will drop to 0.833 grams, and dinner to 3.3 grams of salt, adding up to a total of 6 grams, which is nearing the required healthy range. So now you see why we just have to go back to our traditional ways of cooking. The secret lies in those organic spices like the iru, African locust bean, ogiri, the sesame seed, and you discover that if you can use all these organic food enhancers, it will really help to reduce our salt intake. Now, you don't want to miss my next videos where I'll be talking and sharing with you on how to use spices to enhance the taste you want even in your meals as food enhancers. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family members. Let them also see the reason why they have to stop using chemical food seasonings. Thank you very much for watching. See you in my next video.